Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, presented by Superbook Sports. Taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
I am not Rachel V. Hill. DMAC is not Rachel V. Hill. But we will hang with you on Coffee Break on this Monday morning for the next 45 minutes or so. Good things ahead. I love the optimism, DMAC. How you doing, man?
This is not my coffee cup. In fact, I don't even have anything in the coffee cup, but I just thought I should have a coffee cup for Coffee Break.
It's a good prop.
I've yet to get my coffee, but I will. I am in the quirkiest Airbnb I've ever stayed in my life. I'll have to give you a tour at some point, but it is a magical place. There's trinkets and stuff just all over the place. It's beyond weird and wild, and you never know what you're going to get with an Airbnb, but good things ahead. I'm here.
Good things ahead. I like it. I've got my official Coffee Break mug, so I'm staying on brand. I believe it even says with Rachel V. Hill. It does. Rachel is still in Hawaii. Jake is in Chicago. You're in California, Northern California?
Northern California. Specifically, I'm in this little kind of hard scrabble beach town because it's so cold here. Nobody actually would dare to go into the ocean. But Northern California, just south of San Francisco. And it is a weathered place, Will. And I'm here because my son is playing college baseball, and his home field where he's playing a bunch of his games is like right up the road, but he doesn't live here. He lives like 45 minutes away in San Jose. My son lives like right around the corner from where Nate Jackson grew up, right down the street from Pioneer High School.
Okay.
in San Jose. And he's only going to be here.
I spent in San Jose was the Super Bowl 50. Remember, we were all down there for like the press conferences with the Panthers and the Broncos.
Yeah, that's in the convention center. That's downtown San Jose. Okay. And where the Sharks play isn't far away. Like, downtown San Jose is nothing, all that awesome, let me tell you. But Silicon Valley is one of the most unbelievably wealthy parts, and San Jose is right in the middle of Silicon Valley. So anyways, we're out here to watch him play baseball here for the summer, and then he's going back to your turf in Missouri for school in the fall. So we've had a great time as parents, just sort of following him with his escapades. So One summer vacation we were in Corpus Christi, last year we were in Palm Springs, and this year we're hanging out here in Northern California. So we're having a great time. It's fun to follow your kid while he plays baseball. He's doing good. He's playing well and, healthy and looking great. And it's been a blast so far. But let me tell you, I was in the dive bar of all dive bars.
Okay, go on.
I was in, hold on a second. I'll get some for you. Hold on.
All right, I want to see what prop DMAC has for us.
I was in this punk rock band was playing in Winter's Tavern, and the name of the band is Trash Baguettes.
Oh, okay.
Look up Trash Baguettes. And just making sure none of these songs are curse words. I don't think so. So we got my favorite tune here is Death Machine. Death Machine. Yeah, right in the middle there.
For a Monday morning, Death Machine.
Death Machine by Trash Baguettes. So listen, Will, if you open yourself up to the world, you never know what you're going to stumble into.
Well, and speaking of opening himself up to the world, that is a good introduction for James Marilat, who now joins the show as well. James, DMAC's in a Airbnb in Cali. Rachel's in Hawaii. Jake's in Chicago. I guess you and I are the only two who decided to work on this Monday.
Yeah. I mean, well, DMAC's working. He's just working from, afar.
Oh, I insulted him a little bit. I feel bad. Trash Baguette.
That is one of my favorite things, is just trying to come up with random band names, right? You just throw like 3 words together and see if it's a band name. That one.
Let me tell you the story very quick about this band. So I'm in this dive bar, and it's Winter's Tavern in Pacifica. Look it up. I mean, it's dive bar of all dive bars, right? And this band gets up, a punk rock band, and immediately the lead singer, guitar player takes his shirt off. He's got 10,000 tattoos. He's bald. He's like 45 years old. And then the drummer's wailing away, and there's a big, tall guy, who's playing bass. And on the dance floor, there's like 3 people. Well, one of them is a short woman, very short, maybe 5'1", and she's got a camera. And I'm like, oh, they have a social media person. And there's another guy who's kind of stomping around doing punk rock stuff. And then there's the third guy. And that's it. That's everybody who's on the dance floor. So the first band ends, and then the second band, I didn't even know there was a second band. So the short woman, who I thought was the social media person, gets up on the stage to start playing bass. And the guy stomping around gets on the drum set. And then the bass player all of a sudden becomes the guitar player for the next band. And I was like, wait, what just...
What was the name of the song? Death March? What was it?
Death Machine. Death Machine is, there's a bunch apathetic. Yeah. One thing I did find out he introed one song. He does not like paying taxes.
Okay. I'm not a big dancer. I just would love to see what dance steps you do to Death Machine. I'm not sure.
I danced to Death Machine because there were like 5 people going in a circle and like a little bit of a mosh pit. So I started going like this.
You moved. You didn't dance. You moved.
Well, I just did what they were doing. I was trying to win in Rome.
Win in Pacifico.
All right. Well, we will certainly keep up with D-Mac's adventures because he is off to quite the start out there. Fun to catch up on all that. But we will talk a little sports now because the weekend was busy as usual. But it was the Rockies guys that grabbed the headlines, particularly because of what went down on Saturday night at Coors Field. James Merilatt had it in his column today at denversports.com that they gave up the most runs in a 2-inning stretch since the 1890s as part of a 21 2-inning span. They get down 23-0 in the fourth. They lose 25-1. James, I'll start with you, man. They won the series, which is a total footnote. But Saturday night, by the time the fourth inning came along, it sort of started to hit everyone. We're watching history in the wrong kind of embarrassing rock bottom type history.
Yeah, and you never know where rock bottom is, right? They're quite literally, it can almost always get worse in whatever, business, relationships, sports, you name it. You never know where rock bottom is. But boy, that sure felt like it. It's weird to talk about it today because they did win the series. They became the first team since 1897 to be outscored by 20 runs in a series and still win it. But look, they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They're second worst record in the National League. They're 16.5 games back of the Diamondbacks. They're the worst team in the National League West by a mile. At some point, it's what I wrote about today. It's the fans are to blame. That's it. Dick Monfort, yeah, he could change, but he ain't going to change. And he's told us this over and over and over and over again. And when 132,000 people come through the turnstiles for a 3-game series against the Angels, and I get it, Shohei Ohtani is a generational player. Mike Trout, arguably the best player in the 2000s. It's a beautiful night out at Coors Field. We've had nothing but a month of rain. You want to sit outside and drink a beer and eat a hot dog and take a date or take your kid or whatever. I get it, but we're the problem. If you keep, it's a business. If you keep supporting a business, they have no impetus to change. And the Rockies are that business. They're making money. What do they care? They're not going to do anything. You think Dick Monfort's going to go bother to try and poach the number 2 in command in Tampa Bay and bring him in here and maybe have somebody who's going to tell him no and tell him that's a bad idea and maybe have some creative tension? Heck no. He wants to have the same groupthink people he's had for 24 years, and everybody just sits around and, enjoys having coffee together. It just makes no sense to me, but it ain't going to change if people keep going to the games.
I've heard this, boycott thing for years and years and years. And James, while I love and respect you, nobody's going to do it and it's not going to work. However, it's just not going to happen. Okay. As simple as that. Okay. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but you're going to get so many away fans that it's just not going to happen. And you outlined a lot of reasons why it's not going to happen. And I agree with you. So I don't disagree with you in terms of making an impact. What I think fans have to do at this point, somebody with some cojones is going to have to be brave and protest at the ballpark, like the A's fans have done. They have sell the team chants. They have a silent inning. They actually organize themselves. As you watch what the A's fans have done, they've actually protested at the ballpark. So if you want to start a sell the team chant, or if the fifth inning, 100 people walk out onto the concourse and start doing something, some sort of chants or something else, you're going to make an impact. Frankly, one person could do that. One person could have some sort of, I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything illegal. I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything. But if one person were to protest, others may catch on. But not showing up means nothing.
Well, it's the same thing as the person who doesn't vote. Then you don't get to gripe about what's going on in Washington. You don't. And you can say, well, my vote doesn't count. Yeah, it doesn't. But if too many people think that way, you end up with the wrong people in the wrong positions. So everybody just throwing up their hands saying, oh, if I don't take Billy and Tommy and Susie to the game and we don't buy Dippin' Dots, what's that going to impact it? You got to think on multiplier. If enough people do that, it will have an impact. The 15,000 people who are there for Angels fans, they're not going along with some protests in the stands either. They're not doing it. And Dick Monfort's going to sit there and go, hey, yeah, go open the concourse in the fifth inning and protest. Buy some beers while you're up there, would you? He doesn't care if you're watching the game. He just cares that you bought the ticket, bought a couple beers, especially if you're there for a Cubs game, and he's going to serve old style, for crying out loud.
James, you don't think if something caught on, if somebody on social media, I'm just going to throw something out there, said we're going to do a turn our back fifth inning, and they got it going, and you turned your back. You stood up and turned your back to the field of play. You don't think that would have an impact?
No. Why? Because he's going to suddenly go, holy crap, I'm not popular. Fans don't like me. They're not happy with this. He'd have to be just delusional to not already get that. The only thing that will impact him and will impact any business at all is the bottom line. That's why it's called bottom line is this. There's a reason that cliche exists. If you don't impact his revenue, if you don't impact his profitability, ain't going to matter. And here's the thing. He may not sell the team if they lost a bunch of revenue, but he certainly would have to operate different. Maybe he'd have to say, crap, we better do what the Rays do and just try to go young and cheap instead of spending money on Chris Bryant and bad contracts like that.
James,
sort of rethink.
Are you going to lead the picket line like the writer's strike in Hollywood? Are you going to be walking around with a picket sign in front of 20th and Blake? I mean, what are you going to do?
I don't go to the games. I haven't bought
a care if you don't go to the games.
Everybody needs to get on board. I can complain. I don't support that nonsense. If you're not happy with the types of movies that are coming out and you go every Friday night to the cinema, you're part of the problem. If you stay home and watch Netflix, at some point, the guys running studios are going to go, maybe Fast and the Furious 14 wasn't what we should have done. Maybe we should have come thought outside of the box and come up with a new idea. If Fast and Furious 14 makes $300 million, you know what they're going to do? Fast and the Furious 15. That's what they're going to do.
All right. So we're talking big picture here, which I like, because that was the whole point of what happened Saturday night. It was like Dick Monfort needs to sell the Rockies. This is a joke. You're down 23-0 in the fourth inning. But D-Mac, there was some attendance concerns earlier this year. We saw the pictures of the Tuesday night where no one was there. Did this weekend sort of put to bed this notion that, the new rules and the shorter games and the bad baseball is going to keep people away? Did that kind of conversation die because this weekend sort of felt like the old times where every game was 40,000 plus and it was packed and didn't seem to, the new rules of the bad baseball didn't seem to affect anyone from showing up to the park?
Guys, how many weekend home dates do they get in June, July, and August? Okay. And I'm going to guess they have half of them, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Those 6 weekends, and I don't even know the schedule, But my bet is if you look through those weekends, there's going to be some pretty big teams there. And those games are going to be packed. And a protest doesn't work in April when nobody's showing up already. Again, I love you, James, but you've got to be more active aside from not going if you want to have some sort of revolution that you're advocating for.
Everybody needs to do what I do. Don't go. Don't go.
It's not enough.
The Dodgers are here tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. There will be 40,000 people for each of those games. And Dick Monfort will be just sitting down there right behind the dugout. He'll look up at the score. Doesn't matter if they're up 3-2 or down 25-1. He makes the same amount of money. He's running a business. He's selling beef, right? If you don't like the way the meat processing plant is operating, your best way to get that to change, eat chicken. That's what people need to do. Eat chicken.
You're suggesting the same old tired trope, James, and it's got to be something else. What we're talking about here is protest. That's what we're talking about. Advocating a fan. That's the topic of conversation here because you're displeased. Doing nothing is not a form of protest. It's just being lazy.
Not buying a product.
Sacrificing. James.
Sacrificing.
You got to do something. It's not
I got to
enough.
come up with something else to make a memory with my kids and to make a multi-generational outing and to go on a date on a Saturday night and to sit outside and enjoy Colorado weather and drink a beer. You got to think outside the box. I'm not going to give the money to that guy. I'm just not. If you didn't like the way the neighborhood bar was operating,
listen,
and you go up and drink beers on their patio,
I'll tell you how you do this. You would go on social media and you would say, I'm doing this, whatever it is, instead of going to the Rockies game today, and then you'd have a little bit of a movement, but you can't just do, but that can possibly work, James. If you want to start I'm going to do something else protest and you start posting, that you're doing something else.
Okay.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
It's the same concept. Okay, but that's fine.
Well, it's more active. You're just doing nothing. I mean, no, I can't tell what you're doing when you're doing nothing.
I'm not spending money with the problem.
Then you need to display that. You need to explain it. So,
well, who's the bigger part of the problem? Me, who spent all weekend doing other things, or the 132,000 people who paid Dick Mott for tickets, beers, and hot dogs? Who's the bigger part of the problem?
Well, and I may have been part of said problem because I went on Friday night. I had friends from out of town in, and we did get the tickets for free. I won't reveal how that happened, but we did.
Somebody paid for them.
My buddy says to me, he goes, I'm going to buy you a drink. And I said, okay, cool. And we get up there, and they ask you, do you want a single or a double? And my buddy just takes control. We want doubles, right? It was $52 for 2 drinks. Now, granted, they were doubles. I get that. But point being, when you're at a Rockies game and they're $52, you just kind of, it's kind of like the movies. Like, you just know everything's going to be overpriced, but they're from out of town. I want to show them a good time. We go to the 6th row in our seats. Hey, this is cool, but what's that thing up there? Oh, that's the party deck. Oh, we want to go see that. Next thing I know, I'm on the party deck in the 5th inning, and I was like, I am literally the problem right now because I'm spending $52 on drinks and I'm on the party deck, and my friends from out of town wanted to see the stadium, so I took them to a game and I showed them a good time.
And so why should Dick Monfort do anything different? If you're still going to show up, spend $52 on 2 drinks, and hang out, I understand why people go. I get the attraction, and I get it. But why on earth would he change anything? Why? Why would he make his life uncomfortable? If I can do nothing, talk about doing nothing, DMAC. If I can do nothing and people are just going to come give me money, or I can have total upheaval, change my life, and hope people give me money, well, I'll just do nothing. He's the one doing nothing, and there's no reason for him to change.
Listen, James and Will, we're all part of the problem, okay? I spent a weekend at the Raleigh Hotel when nothing was going on in downtown Denver, and I had a damn good time. My wife and I had a little staycation, and that was pretty awesome. Actually, it was the Denver Day of Rock, and unbelievably, it rained. Can you believe it rained? And, my wife got a corner room with a balcony on the 6th floor, and it was freaking awesome. I mean, we had a great time down there, and there wasn't even a game going on. So listen, I got to give them credit for being smart with their business. Okay. Will's going to spend $52 on drinks because he's going to go once a year. I'm probably going to go once a year and buy club level seats so I can buy a $30 lobster roll from the main shack at the club level because I'm only going to go one time a year. So, when you talk about who the real problem is, it's really the season ticket holders that would have the most power. They don't really care about randoms like us guys. They don't. Randoms like us are just going to go. If you start canceling season tickets, then, that's an issue. But I don't know how to get 70-year-olds to start canceling their season ticket package. And who are the season ticket holders for the Rockies? Who are these people? And those are the people probably with the most power and the influence. By the way, when you say you want him to sell the team, we just gave a bunch of examples why he's never going to sell the team. And frankly, why should he sell the team? So, I mean, we can be all upset and get all embarrassed, but the fact is they did win the series against the Angels. They didn't lose the series. So the vast majority of people that saw the Rockies this weekend, the vast majority saw the Rockies win.
They won 2 games this weekend. They're 2-8 in their last 10.
Well, okay. But if I paid my $50 for my doubles and I go and see the Rockies win and I got a $30 clam roll, I think it's probably, I feel like, hey, money well spent.
Well, then you get what you deserve. All
right.
you care about is the game you go to. That's it. You don't care that the team is percentage points ahead of the Nationals for the worst team in the league.
Do I? Are you talking about the consumer
I was there.
Or me?
What are we? We're 5 years old. Dinger was there. They won tonight. The world's good.
D-Mac, I'll give you the last word. Then we got to get.
I think the concept of protest. I like the concept of protest to show you're displeased. I think you have to be more active than just doing nothing. So whatever your form of protest is, and I think a stronger form of protest would be to actually protest at the stadium itself. What can I tell you? But I'm not going to do it. And not only am I not going to do it, I'm not going to advocate for it. You get what you get. And it seems that most people are pretty happy with it. If you want to just talk about baseball, then we can talk about baseball. And the first thing to talk about baseball very quickly is that you just need to fire sale everything. Seriously. You've got some good young talent. You need to fire sale everything. And there's a young pitcher available in the MLB draft this year. His name is Harry Gustin, 6'1" lefty from Aurora, out of Hawaii, first team Big West. He's the Kyle Freeland part 2. And if the Rockies don't draft a guy in mid-rounds, Harry Gustin, very specifically, who's Kyle Freeland part 2, they're making a dramatic mistake. So don't screw up something in your backyard with somebody who grew up pitching in Colorado.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. And that fire sale did start to begin on Saturday as they traded Mike Moustakas. Mike Moustakas won the lottery, guys, because he lost 25-1 and got to switch dugouts.
By the way, the Angels were down a run, 2 on yesterday in the bottom or top of the 9th. Why they didn't pinch hit Mike Moustakas at that point? Because it would have been so Rockies for the guy they traded in the middle of a series to beat them in that series. That was, I mean, the Angels manager, talk about just missing the signs. Like it was right there in front of you. I forget the guy he pinch hit. He grounded out and it was ball game. Mike Moustakas should have been at the plate to beat the Rockies right there.
On a Rockies note, on Saturday, they gave up 3 runs on 3 pitches. Who was the pitcher?
Chase Anderson.
Why does Chase Anderson go down in Major League history?
Because he did it the first time too, or something happened.
He did it twice. He did it back in 2020. The same pitcher in within 3 years gave up 3 homers on 3 pitches. I couldn't believe it because everything in baseball's happened before, right? That's baseball. That's why it's amazing to go back to the 1890s for records when I realized that Chase Anderson had done this before, my jaw dropped. Like, oh, he's a seasoned pro and giving up 3 home runs on 3 pitches. After you give up 2 home runs on 2 pitches, don't you throw the next one just in the dirt?
Correct.
I mean, what are we doing here?
All right, guys, we are going to move on to the Avalanche because they made a big trade over the weekend acquiring Ryan Johansson from the Nashville Predators. projects like a second line center. The release from Chris McFarland said he'll be a top 6 forward for us. And then I see a lot of people saying, hey, hold on, this dude's not good enough to be a second line center. D-Mac, where do you check in on Ryan Johansson and how big of an addition he is to the Avalanche? And is he an adequate replacement for the first time in a year since Nazem Kadri left town?
Well, do you remember when Joe Flacco was in his prime and everybody said, well, 2 years ago, it's the whole phrase 2 years ago in pro sports is dangerous. If you're referencing what you were 2 years ago, there is a legitimate question about how you are today. Now, on the surface, recovering from his injury that kept him out for most of the a chunk of the season last year. He is a big body with a lot of experience. So on the surface, he really sets the tone. He's pretty good on the draws. But again, it's like, well, we'll see, because it's a whole, 2 years ago, X, Y, and Z. And there's always a reason why another team is paying part of your contract. They're paying you to play somewhere else, okay? Like the Broncos paid the Jets to take Tim Tebow, and there's a million other examples of that. Guys, if we can get in the hot tub time machine and we can make 2 years ago work, then there's a lot of good about I think 6'2", 215. I mean, he's a big dude in the middle of the ice. And there is a twist of irony here because he's the one that nearly poked out Darcy Kemper's eye in the playoffs a couple years ago. So I think it's a weird one, but I'm happy to see it work out if it does work out. I got to say this, though. I think it's ridiculous just to assume because the Avalanche did something that everybody is falling all over themselves to say it's the most awesome thing ever. I mean, what? I mean, we can't raise an eyebrow, a legitimate question about how this is going to work out. We can't say, well, what about JT Compher? How did that fit in? I guess Alex Newhook is done. I mean, when did we become as a society of, sports critics and sports lovers that all of a sudden we're not allowed to talk about, the upsides and the downsides?
No. If you're a fan, you are 100% on board with 100% of moves made 100% of the time.
Why?
I don't know. That's the new mantra, though, because heaven forbid you dislike something Michael Malone did 3 years ago. You weren't on board the whole time. So to a certain percentage of fans, you're not allowed to come to the parade, and to a certain percentage of people covering the team, you're a hater. It's preposterous. Look, I don't dislike this move. It seems relatively risk-free. I mean, when you're getting the opposing team to pick up part of the salary, you didn't really give up much. I think the Avs at this point have to have multiple options for who's going to be their second line center. This gives them another option. Is he 100% that guy? No, I think, and to just proclaim him as that for a guy who I don't believe has scored more than 15 goals in 8 years, I think is a little bit silly. I do think he has some talent. I do think he has some ability. I do think it could work out. But this is also the team that thought JT Compher was going to work out and Alex Newhook was going to work out. And therefore, they didn't need to, work out a way to keep Nazem Kadri. So to just say, 100%, carte blanche, in Joe and in Chris we trust, I think is a little silly.
Real quick, he did score 26 goals just 2 years ago. So,
one in 8 years. 1 in 8 years.
That was a big year, though. 26 goals. That's a nice total.
Or it's the aberration.
Well, I'm curious what you think. What your take is on it?
I think they finally solved the second line center because guess what? Everyone who comes to Colorado who has an ounce of talent gets better once they start playing with Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar. So if you can put up 26 goals on a Nashville team that was, a fringe playoff team, then you can come to Denver and score 30. It's what happened to Kadri when he got traded from Toronto. He was a good player who became a great player. I'm not saying Ryan Johansson's walking into the Hall of Fame, but I'm expecting a 25 to 30 goal season next year because everyone who's competent who comes to the Avs gets better. When you play with great talent, you get better. So I love the move. I think the second line center issue is solved after they ignored it for 11 months.
Well, I think that's a fair point by you, Will, because Bednar has done that quite often in terms of mixing up the first and the second line just to give it a little bit of juice. Like, it's not crazy that you'd put Nichushkin on the first line with Lehkonen and Mac, and then drop Mikko down to the second line to play with Johansson. That's not crazy. I do wonder where they are with Comfer, like where that's going to go. I can't get a straight answer from anybody about Comfer. Are we just writing it off? Is he just done?
I don't.
Goodbye. It's gone.
I mean, nobody misses more empty nets in the postseason than JT Comfer.
Yeah, but guys,
I've never been a huge JT Comfer guy. Name me the big goal JT Comfer scored off the top of your head.
His point production was the same as Kadri's last year, guys. I mean, if you look at what they did, what Kadri did in Calgary and Comfer did here, it was almost identical.
Right, and Kadri played on a crappy Flames team that missed the playoffs.
I think that's to Will's point. And look, Will, I think that's fair, right? Val Nichushkin's maybe the prime example. Everybody talked about the year he had down in Dallas where he had, no goals and 1 assist or something like that. And he played a ton of games. He comes here, he's, where he's surrounded by stars, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, this guy looks like a legit star in his own right. Maybe there's that bump, maybe. And I hope so. I'm not ready to make it past tense that they solved the problem just yet. When it worries me, it's a red flag when somebody's paying you to play against them. That's a red flag. The fact that you're right, the 26 goals 2 years ago, but you had to go back to 2013 to have him have more than 14 or 15 in a season prior to that. So that's a long run. That's 10 years to see numbers and production like that. So 1 out of 10 is a concern, but maybe he gets the bump, and maybe he'll be better than JT Comfer and Alex Newhook were this year, I would guess. I mean, I would think that it's an upgrade. How big of an upgrade?
We'll see. Listen, I don't dislike the deal. It just comes with a bunch of question marks. That's all. Yeah. So, okay, we'll see. I mean, how is the return of Matt Nieto? How was welcome to the band Lars Eller? How'd that go? I mean, guys, not great. I mean, it wasn't like some sort of game changer. You're going to be done, I guess, with Eric Johnson and Jack Johnson. So what are we trading Sam Girard? Are we keeping him? I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of questions still to be answered for this Avalanche club. I actually am not quite sure why they're so favored to win the Stanley Cup again. I mean, I don't really quite get it, but I
got 3 words for you: Nathan, Kale, Mikko.
Yeah, they have 3 of
the 3 of the top 8 players on earth. You're going to be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup.
Agreed. And look, the Will is all in on this deal. Matt Smith is probably the biggest naysayer. And I think that there's a lot of opinions to be had on that spectrum. And I think all of them are, fair at this point because none of us know. But D-Mac, back to your point, to just suggest the needle has to just go over to Will, and that's the only way we can look at this, I think is silly. It doesn't mean Will's going to be wrong. You may prove to be 100% right on this. I just I'm going to play a little bit more of a wait and see before I declare it a victory.
Yeah, like on the surface, he's healthy. He's got a lot of size. He's got experience in the league. For 2 years, this looks pretty good on the surface if he can stay healthy and do all of that. And listen, guys, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you should have got this guy. I don't know if Ryan O'Reilly would have been better. I really don't. I'm not sure about that. Maybe, maybe not. Listen, we get into some sticky territory when we're talking about 30-year-olds in hockey. We just are. There's a lot of bumps and bruises. These guys play a lot of games and a lot of ice time from a very early age, so they burn out a little bit quicker in general. So you just kind of don't know. But you are right about, Makar, McKinnon, and Mikko, as well as Taves. Nichushkin's going to be back. I mean, forget that. That he is coming back. Oh yeah. He'll be back on the team. There's no doubt. They need him. They're too desperate for him. So I don't know how that settles in the locker room. I got me. I don't know how the guys are okay with that, but I'm sure he'll be back playing with them.
All right, we do have to keep things moving as much as I would love to continue the Avalanche talk. We want to get on to Courtland Sutton tying the knot over the weekend. And guys, this caught my attention because, first of all, congratulations to Courtland. That's exciting. But I want to hear your opinion on, there were a ton of Broncos there. Von Miller was there. Jerry Jeudy, Kareem Jackson, Pat Surtain, Albert O, et cetera, et cetera.
Don't even tell me. Don't even say it. I don't know. Don't even say it. Do not tell me Russell Wilson was not there.
No, he was.
Oh,
That's why we're talking about it.
Oh,
Russ and Sierra go.
okay.
In all seriousness, I do think there's something here, and this is why I put it on the rundown. Is Russ going to Courtland's wedding and just being one of the fellas and being one of the guys a good thing for a team that needs Russ to be one of the guys, when last year he's sitting in his office and you got Brandon McManus begging him to come down to the locker room and be one of the guys?
Yeah. I mean, imagine the story if he wasn't there.
Right.
So the fact that he was there then is a positive. Does it mean they're going to win 12 games and he's going to throw for 4,000 yards and everything's going to be fine? No, but it certainly is a positive sign. It's a good step. I think the Russ isn't popular in the locker room storyline from last year was way overhyped. Much ado about nothing. I do think he made himself a little bit, aloof and detached, and he was willing to come back down into the locker room, which was good. But no, it's a good thing because the opposite would have been a terrible thing. So therefore, this is good news.
Yeah, if he wasn't at the wedding, that would be a story. But popular guy goes to wedding of teammate. Okay, cool. I mean, that's what you should do.
But I mean, the fact we even have to have the conversation shows you how poorly he handled last year. I heard Derek on the air on Friday talking about Brandon McManus went up to Russ's office and begged him to become one of the guys. And that was your kicker. Like, guys, he seems like he's learned a lot in the last year.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to be at his table at the wedding. That just kind of, you're chopping it up and then, Russ is going to tell us about love now, guys. So let's clam up. Go ahead, Russ. Tell us about love.
Was Sean Payton there?
I did not see any pictures of Sean.
Now, that would be a tricky table, D-Mac, because it would be like chicken, beef. Well, let me tell you all about chicken and beef and why both options are good. If you get the chicken, it's a white meat. It's a little leaner. If you go with the beef, it would just be on and on and on. And he'd be
How many appetizers have you had? Because if you're going to eat the chicken, listen, you got to go light on the apps. And you got to understand there's dessert later, okay? Don't just, be smart about it.
What do you guys make of Von Miller going? And he still calls the Broncos we. I think there's part of Vaughn, even though he's not a Super Bowl contender, I think there's a big part of Vaughn that still wishes he played for the Denver Broncos.
100%. It's why it was a mistake to trade him. It was a mistake to not try to get him to come back here. I think he wants to be a Bronco. I think he considers himself to be a Bronco. And look, if you're not going to be in Denver and you're going to be a mercenary, then you're going to go chase the rings and you're going to go chase the biggest contract. I think the opportunity was there for the Broncos to keep him at a hometown discount. And I think all of these things start to add up as more and more evidence of that. It was one of the many George Payton misses. I mean, they did get Luke Wattenberg and Nick Bonito out of the deal. So,
well, the reason why Vaughn was traded, because the Broncos wanted a culture change, believe it or not. And they were thinking that he was a bad part of the culture, which again is laughable. Okay. But the reason they also had to do it is you can only trade guys that have value to get value back. And the reason they had to do that is because of what they gave up for Russell Wilson. Now, what they do with those draft picks, that's sort of a whole nother ball of wax. But when you give up 4 first and second round draft picks over 2 years for Russell Wilson and give up other first round value for Sean Payton, guys, where do you think you're going to build depth from? So you kind of put yourself in a sticky wicket. Yes, it was ridiculous to get rid of Vaughn. I call myself a poser buff because I have so many friends that went to CU, and I just root for CU by default, even though I'm a Syracuse guy, like Will's a Missouri guy. But he's a poser Bronco, Von Miller. He wants to be part of the team. And I do think he wants to seriously be a front office guy in the NFL. And so it would not surprise me whatsoever if Von Miller came back to the Broncos at some point trying to get on the management path. Would not surprise me whatsoever. I think it'd be a good move, actually.
Interesting. Okay. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's go ahead and talk a little NBA free agency to wrap up the show, fellas. Obviously, not a ton of Nuggets news over the weekend. Mason and I recapped the draft on Friday. But with free agency looming on Friday, I wanted to hear both your opinions because I haven't gotten them yet. D-Mac, I'll start with you. On a 1 to 100 percentage-wise, what is the percent chance Bruce Brown is a Denver Nugget by the end of the week, or what is the percent chance he's somewhere else?
I wish I had a deeper insight into that. He's a quirky guy. He may do a quirky guy thing, but I think he'll be gone. And I think the drafting of Strother is a good indication too. You know, he's that sort of, he's a guard at 6'7.5", with tremendous length. I really love that draft pick, by the way. I love how just the Nuggets are so consistent on who they are and who they want to be. So I think Bruce Brown is probably gone. It makes me sad. I wish he'd be around for a couple more years because I think they could go on a fun run. And I don't think the replacement for Brown is all that obvious. But there are other guys out there that they'll probably try to get to be that backup guard energy sort of guy, like Schroeder from the Lakers, or there's a handful of guys kind of like that. It's a bummer though, guys. It's a bummer, but I think I hope I'm wrong. I so hope I'm wrong, but I think Brown is out of town.
Yeah, I think it's a 95% chance he's gone. And I don't blame him.
95? That seems high, James.
He's got a ring.
He's totally discounting what they said at the parade. You think that was all balderdash?
Yeah, we've all been out drinking with the fellas and we make plans to go to Vegas. Then we wake up the next morning, we're like, oh boy, I got to run that by a few people and check the bank account. And I got to work, and you don't go. He can make more money in a year than he's made basically up to this point in his career. And he can sign a contract elsewhere that is life-changing money. I mean, it's one of the silly things about the NBA collective bargaining agreement. Like, it's just the fact that he can go elsewhere and get different money than what the Nuggets can pay him is silly, but it is what it is. Yeah, I can't blame somebody for not wanting to turn down life-changing generational type money. I just can't. If you're at the end of your career and you're chasing a ring, maybe, but he just got one. And here's the other part of it. And I like Bruce Brown, really good player. Game 4 down in Miami, he was huge. But a year ago, everybody's like, oh, okay, they're bringing in Bruce Brown from Brooklyn. Yeah, right. Nobody knew anything about him. There's another Bruce Brown out there, right? He's not one of their top 5 guys. He's a bench player. They need him in a 20-game postseason run to have 2 or 3 moments. You can find somebody that can do that. I'm not saying he's easily replaced, but he is replaceable. He just is. This isn't Jokic, Murray, MPJ, or AG walking out the door.
Well, wait, hold on. He got more minutes than MPJ. He finished games over MPJ.
You sure this isn't
like a top 5 guy? Well, he was a top 5 guy.
You know what? At some point, they had to take Will Barton away from Michael Malone. Maybe they need to take Bruce Brown away from him too, because MPJ should have been.
Hold on. Time out. You don't think this is like losing Kadri?
No.
Really? You don't see that? You don't see that comparable?
No. Who's the heart and soul of the Nuggets?
Bruce Brown was on a lot of nights. A lot of nights it was Bruce Brown.
No, he was.
I'm with D-Mac. They're losing a glue guy here.
He's Arturi Lehkonen.
Arturi Lehkonen is a first-line forward who scored the winning goal in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They couldn't have won the cup without Arturi Lehkonen.
And he ain't Makar, McKinnon, or Miko. Sorry.
Arturi Lehkonen is really good. I think Lehkonen is better than Kadri.
Bruce Brown in the same sense as Will Barton, and now you're just dismissing his departure.
I'm not. I didn't say he's easily replaced. I said he's replaceable. It's a guy that a year ago, nobody knew who in the heck he was. Nobody. And now, and I get it, he had some big moments. And do they win the NBA title without Bruce Brown? I would say yes. I think they get by every single series with somebody else playing that role. Do they win the NBA Finals, win the championship without Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon?
Well, nobody's comparing him to them. Like, nobody's saying Kadri's better than McKinnon.
Oh, you just cancel your season tickets. Bruce Brown's leaving.
All right. Wow. So James doesn't care at all about Bruce Brown.
Clearly.
I think that's a tough one to replace.
He's a good player. He is. In a perfect world, I'd like him to come back. Am I going to spend the rest of my summer just hand-wringing of, oh, my God, how are they going to replace the Cowboy? No, I'm not. I trust Michael Malone to find the right answer. And the right answer is already on the roster. He should have been in the game most of the times late anyway. There were so many games in the playoffs where Bruce Brown was 1 for 10. I mean, just everybody forgets that. Everybody forgets.
Wow. What? Now we're backing the horse over Bruce Brown? Like, James, come on now, man.
You can't just focus on the 1 or 2 games that he was great and ignore the games where he was not good. He just Christian Brown had a great game 3. He also had most of his games that was 0, 1, 0, 0, 2. If Christian Brown left, I'd be sad. He was a good part of the team and a fun player, and I think he's got a good upside. But again, very replaceable.
All right. On that cheery note, I think we're going to wrap up coffee break.
I'm the cheery one. I'm the one saying this isn't a big deal. Is Bruce Brown a top 100 player in the NBA?
Top 100 player in the NBA. Wow.
There's 30 teams.
30 teams, one of the top 4 guys. I mean, he was a virtual starter for the team. His minutes and KCPs were interchangeable. So, I mean, he was kind of a starter for a team that won an NBA championship. So
he's not a top 150 player.
Okay.
Maybe in the top 200. Maybe.
Okay. All right. So who gives a crap about Bruce Brown?
If Kelvin Booth can't go find another top 200 player, then we got the wrong guy.
Okay.
All right. D-Mac, you want to give us a 30-second positive wrap-up? Just so everyone can feel good about the rest of their day.
Trash Baguette. And they are self-described as nasty, poor, brutish, and short. This is the band. Listen, it is a trip to watch one band and see people in the crowd become the other band. So Winter's Tavern, and I hope everybody enjoys a cup of coffee listening to Affliction and Death Machine a little bit later today. I'm sure they're on YouTube or something, but Trash Baguette, guys. My journey into Northern California continues.
Well, I don't understand how me telling everybody it's going to be fine is a downer.
You compared him to Will Barton. That's where you lost me. That's where you lost me.
You got it. Sometimes you got to take away someone's crutch and say, "Hey, it's time to walk."
All right. Well, we will keep you posted, certainly at denversports.com. For James, for D-Mac, for Matt behind the scenes, I'm Will. Appreciate you watching Coffee Break.
Hey, good things ahead.
Super Book Sports.